Yeah, my father was a cement finisher, and my mother was considered the help. She was a maid. When I was born, my father brought his bundle of joy and 4 children to live on Roy Street, which was a shotgun house that's currently still there on Roy Street, just down from Nichols, right across from By Augusta. My daddy didn't have enough money to move into By Augusta. He had to have a little money to move into By Augusta homes at the times, really. It was considered the projects. By the time he didn't, and so therefore we bought that house. My mother would catch the bus and worked literally all over Biloxi, but especially there in Ocean Springs. And my father was in the union, and consequently had a business agent, what you call a business agent, and did a lot of concrete work, particularly there at Keesler Air Force Base. Actually, he was the cement finisher that finished the arch over the Highway 90, the arch that simulated the Arch of St. Louis. Well, there used to be an arch and a breezeway across there, and where the actual red light was in the middle of that arch had to be finished. And my father was hoisted there and had to sit in a swing and finish that. So he did concrete work all over. For the Buena Vista, he did concrete work, just about every major building in and around Biloxi.
The nightlife was nice because we had one place we could go. We'd go down on Main Street, all them clubs down on Main Street. And on a Friday night, on a Saturday night, you could not drive a car down on Main Street. There'd be so many people out there in the street. People was enjoying themselves back in that time. They didn't have much, but what they had, they enjoyed what they had.
Shop right there across the street from the Blue Note, and the Blue Note was across the street, and then my dad had a restaurant there as well.
Yeah, there were a number of barber shops and beauty shops there on Main Street as well. So that was a number of successful businesses, mind you. And of course, we had a couple of white business owners who survived off of, our black dollars, which brought me to the thought of at the corner of Nixon and Division Street. I had the grocery store there in 1961. He was one of the whites that were down on the beach that were beating the black wait-in group, if you will, and had the audacity to come back to the store, to open the store up, and to think that we would actually
come back in.
Yeah, come and buy in the store. But anyway, he would close down.
It was blooming, but it was plenty of grocery stores, clothing stores, laundries. They had hospital.
Mm-hmm. It was one carrier, his name was Harry Burnham, and Harry had got sick. So he was off for 3 months, and so my supervisor told me, "You're gonna be carrying Harry route." And so I started carrying Harry route, and a lot of other carriers, some of the white carriers, they said, this old lady stay down there on East Howard Avenue. Her name is Primo. She said, whatever you do, you don't put nobody mail in her box but Miss Primo. And she stay in that duplex. And I'm the type of person like this, if I see some first class mail going to the same address and I didn't know who the person was, I would knock on the door and ask her, is this your cousin, is this your niece or somebody with this other last name? And she would tell me, no, it's only Primo only. So I write those names in my book. When I got that name, I would return them. And then I was only about 3 months because the mother guy told me, man, she's a mean old lady now. She said that she don't ever smile. And so when I would go there, I would say, good morning, Primo, how you doing? She'd say, I'm doing all right. Like, with a kind of dry talk. And then I held her mail in her hand. I wouldn't put it in the mailbox. And then I kept doing that while her facial expression started to change. And afterwards, she be like, when she see me coming, she smiling. And then Mr. Galat called me to his office. I said, oh Lord, what I done did? I done messed up, they gonna fire me? So I went to his office, he said, he said, old lady stay on the east end of Howard Avenue. She told me that you the best mailman she ever had. And could she keep you on her route? He said, I had to tell her, I said, no, that's Harry Burnham route. He was just a substitute carried his route until he got well.
It's always been said that we were, our schools did not have the funding that's obvious, goes without saying. And we always had the old books that the white schools sent over. But I would put our education up against anybody's, because all the people that graduated from Nichols, I think they can stand toe-to-toe with anybody, anywhere. I don't think our education was any less. I think our teachers, and I guess I'm a little bit prejudiced since my mama was a teacher at Nichols, but I don't feel as if my education was any less inferior than anybody else's.
When I was going to the Catholic school, the nuns would walk the streets on Saturday and Sunday. And if you did not do your homework right, they would walk, you see them long dresses turning down Quaver Street where I was born at. And if you know you didn't do your work right, they gonna come and tell your mother. Yeah. And then they make you get a good report the next time you see them turn the corner. They will give you a good report, because my mother wouldn't make that much money, and so going to Catholic school, that's just like paying you to go to college. If it was $3 a month, that's a lot of money to her.
The only thing that we think about now is how we were treated in terms of the revenue school district. They were very, very segregated. But other than that, I mean, we were, I guess it was the early 60s before we got a gym. We used to play outside, on asphalt, basketball and stuff of that nature. But educationally, we did very well. The music, departments, choir, and all that sort of thing. We did very well,
Biloxi was segregated. That was the normal life. I'll give you a good example. A white airman and a black airman came to the Greyhound bus station. They could not get the same taxi to the base. It was a no-no. See, segregation was pretty rough around here. It was pretty rough. And I remember they had that march down on the beach. The buses would have a shade on the side of the window. When you went out there, you couldn't see out on the beach.
Well, they did have we had restrooms, but we'd have to go in the back to use the back door instead of coming in the front door. That was going on in my younger days.
There you go. You meet all kind of people coming up to the mail, they package and stuff like that. And they had these little mirrors, these little windows around the top of the post office. You don't know if the inspector up there looking down on you. Felt like you had a whole lot of eyes on you. But I wasn't gonna mess with nothing no how. And then they would bait you when you come to the post office. You might come there and you might see a $5 bill laying on the floor over here. Especially when you first come in, two clerks, the bottom clerks is just like the private in the Army. You work on Sunday to unload the transfer truck coming from Jackson with the mail on them. And so they base you, see, can you stand to work around money? When I would see the money, I let it sit there until it grow a whisker. I wouldn't touch nothing.
My mom used to always say that they forbade them to join the NAACP.
Yeah, they would lost their jobs.
They would have lost their jobs.
Yeah. So those that again worked at Keats, and that was some others had been a few businesses that were involved, but it was a very very good branch in my opinion. Charles Davis and all of those.
Oh yeah, it was very strong compared to now.
Yeah.
I recollect at 6 years old, learning to ride my bicycle on the Oyster Shell Road there on Nixon Street. I knew how to ride. I learned how to stay up, but I didn't know how to put on brakes. And so I can remember leaving Nixon Street, which was just behind Brothers Grocery, and going north. You're heading Division Street. And on the corner of Division Street and Nixon Street was Dr. Gilbert R. Mason's little shotgun office there. It's a kind of a brown office on piers. Shotgun, literally. His actual clinic was in the back, and so in the front you came in. But nevertheless, here I am, 6 years old, riding my bicycle, and couldn't stop, and I ended up going across Division Street into a rope that had no trespassing, had a no trespassing sign on it that was roped around the office of Dr. Mason that was bombed the night or two before. How would you put it? I was mischievous, but I was very curious. So I went behind the building, and there was an alley behind the building, and that alley led up to the mortuary. And the young scamp, I really didn't know, so needless to say, I went down that alley and up to the mortuary, and noticed a hearse and understood where I was, and so went round to the front. And I can remember very plainly looking at the front door of Mac Daniels Funeral Home and sticking my finger into the little hole in that door. As I found out later, it was a bullet hole. Yeah. And it all kind of came clear. That was in and around the time that Dr. Mason led the wait-in. And again, as a very young scamp, I remember quite clear that morning that it kind of all came together. It was early morning, and I can hear my mom and my dad in the two-bedroom house. My mom saying to my father, why you have to go? Why you have to go? And my dad not saying anything, and my mom fussing at him about the fact of, look, you got a family, blah, 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 and dad not saying anything. And, sunrise, and I heard my dad finally say, look, I'm going, and that's that. And the door closed. Today, there is a subtleness that exists that most young African Americans don't grasp. And let me say this, by saying that, you got to understand, what was existing then was by statute, by ordinance. Caucasians and African Americans were governed by colored water fountains and white water fountains. They too were governed by that. You understand what I'm saying? In other words, there's a perception that, white only or colored only meant, whites could go where they wanted to go and blacks could go where they wanted to go, colors could go where they wanted to go. In other words, if a white guy went into a colored environment, that somehow or another he would not also be breaking the law. He would. Not that he'd want to do that, however. But the point is that they were participating by sitting on the front of the bus. I think that young people in Biloxi don't appreciate, number one, the true value of the historical importance and the economic importance of what old Biloxi is. Meaning this, the oldest city in Mississippi is Biloxi. Right now, what was back of town, which was across the track, is now the heart of town. Because of the fact that many of the historical buildings have been destroyed along the beach side, And thanks to Trent Lott, you know, this area, a lot of people don't realize it, this area was deemed a historical, it's a historical area. In other words, it was deemed that this area has more historical properties than literally any other area. That is, of course, Katrina kind of changed that, but it didn't change it nearly as much for back of town. Bear with me. Those houses that's back there, those old Victorian houses that African Americans struggled to make and build, I mean, from the Davis house to the Nichols home to homes in and around what used to be Bellman Street, now Nichols Drive, even several houses there on Nixon Street, the old funeral home there. I think the place where the Bong Tong was is gone. But those old houses now hold great significance in the annals of history. But now they're relegated by young African Americans to being old school and not as important. I think that the state of African Americans in Biloxi would be far better if more African Americans would move back into those districts, into those areas.